Scooch did not help in this video. Alright, so I am back on the quest. And today I decided to remove the dashboard. Only because this car has been sitting for some time and there have been some mice making little houses and stuff in here, in the vents, and behind the dash, and everywhere. So I'm gonna probably end up ripping this whole carpet out and everything else to get all that stuff cleaned out. It's pretty nasty. Today I decided to take the dashboard out. Not a fun job, as some of you guys may know. It took me a couple hours with the service manual and with some experience. I took one of these out years ago, probably 20 years ago, on the first car that I ever had. So I kind of remembered, but I needed some guidance. Some of the guys on the forums, and Steve has a video on YouTube, which helped out a lot. A couple of things that I want to just mention that were not mentioned in his video. But I'm going to try to run through it real quick just in case if anyone's having any issues getting it out, because it isn't that easy of a job the first time you're doing it anyways. So the obvious ones, I mean, there's bolts on the side that you have to take off. These trim panels on the sides of the dash, there's 2 bolts, the one that's behind the vent, and there's one over there on each side, those 2 on this side. So those are the obvious ones, and then minus all the other electrical connections. You have to pull the cluster off. I mean, all that stuff. It's pretty straightforward once you kind of start getting into it. Take the screws out for the fuse panel so that can stay there. I disconnected the hood cable, the hood latch cable. This is all for the steering column, the turn signals. That whole thing needs to come off. Again, if you watch Steve's video, it pretty much tells you what to do. The only thing with Steve's video that I had some issues with is there is actually 5 screws on the clamshell that underneath panel of the steering column here. So just make sure, because I had taken 4 out and I was pulling on it and nothing was happening, so I had to go back under there and look, and there was actually 5 screws holding this thing in. So make sure you get 5 out. And also you need to, or I don't know if you need to, but I did, I made it easier. I loosened up this nut, 10mm nut, so you can turn this little tab to the side so you can slide through. That makes it much easier. Gotta take the steering wheel off, 17mm. You don't really need a puller to get the steering wheel off. I just kind of jiggled it back and forth real hard with my hands. Just make sure before you pull the steering wheel off that you mark it with the splines so that you know where straight is, because you don't want to be guessing. There's so many splines on here that the steering wheel can go on a bunch of different ways. Just make sure that it's marked. See, I marked it with the marker here, and then on the actual steering wheel, the inside of the housing, I marked it so that it kind of lines up. Just a quick little tip. You're probably not going to see it here because I have the cover on, but there's marks on the inside of that steering wheel. I ended up removing this before I took the dash out. It just seemed to be a little bit easier. It probably doesn't need to be done. I did that. Obviously this lower panel needs to come off. There's a bunch of screws holding this thing on. What else did I need to do? There's a ton of screws, and the thing that sucks is, like, you pull out all these screws. I started putting them back after I took them out if I could, because you're gonna lose track. They all look the same, and who knows where they go. I don't know. So I'm gonna have to, it's kind of like a puzzle afterwards trying to figure out where they go, but I think that I got most of them figured out. Again, I have a parts car as well, so it's gonna make it a little bit easier for me to figure out where they go. These are the screws for the hood latch. Then there's a screw behind this. I want to say, I don't remember what goes there, but one of the, I don't know if it's the wipers or something. One behind there. I took the ashtray out. There's a couple of screws with the ashtray. Then there's one in the back. Then you got to make sure you get the bolts that are underneath the radio console. Those are kind of tough to see, 10mm bolts. I took this out, probably didn't need to. I was trying to just get this black off, the black cover off, but I guess it comes off with the frame, the metal frame. There's a screw back here. Screw, screw, screw. I don't know. There's so much going on with these cars. It's going to be fun putting it back together. To get the cluster off, screw here, 8mm to get that off. Here's that one that's behind the vent. Behind the vent, you take the clock out, disconnect all the connectors, plugs. I think this is for the light for the cigarette ashtray. I don't know what that is. That might be a screw too. I honestly don't know. There's so many. Like I said, it's gonna be interesting to put this back on. I had a difficult time just getting the center console out of this thing. I got the seats out, the center console, because I plan on detailing the crap out of this car. Here go all the parts. Again, like I said, it's gonna be fun getting it back in, but with the parts car, it'll help figure out where everything goes. Of course, you have to unplug everything, the cluster, all this stuff is for the switches, the wiper switches and the turn signals. Plugs galore for the radio. So yeah, that's pretty much what I had to do today. It was a couple hours, man. It took me a decent couple hours trying to get it all out. Well, that was with the seats and everything too, so you might be able to get this out in an hour if you know what you're doing. The only thing that I got hung up on were those two bolts that are underneath here on the center console. You got to get the radio out, and then there's two bolts here you got to look out for. And yeah, the clamshell needs to come out, and you kind of got to jiggle that out once you get the screws loose. The bottom part, I pulled the bottom part out first, and then the top part came out, and then it's really simple. You got to take, this is for the, I want to say the RPM or the speedo, the speedo cable. You got to get this from the back, pull that out from the back, comes off. There's probably some other plugs back there that you need to disconnect before you pull the cluster out. And then all the hoses should just kind of fall off. I think this hose was kind of stuck, but they just pop right out for the AC and the heating, the HVAC stuff. I want to say that's pretty much it. But yeah, not that simple of a job to get out, but it does come out eventually. There's two screws here to pull out for the switches, and the best part of this is still starts. Pretty cool, huh? So I'll be able to move it forward or move it around the driveway if I have to. I'll just throw the steering wheel on there temporarily. So yeah, that's where I'm at with the car. I plan on getting the carpet out, maybe the back seats out, and make sure all the other rat poop and everything is cleaned out. I'm gonna try to clean up the tracks. We'll see what's going on underneath in a minute. Hopefully it's not bad. But yeah, they're a little rusted up. I'm gonna try to clean all this up and maybe paint them. Hopefully I get this seat fixed. That's the only spot on the seat which is nice. That's got issues really. The passenger's not too bad. I should be able to clean that up nice. We'll dye those little spots up. And that's about it right now. The car is running. It runs pretty decent. We do some maintenance to it eventually, oil change, etc. All that stuff. But it runs. It seems to be not leaking anything, which is good. That's not leaking. It doesn't seem to be leaking anything underneath. I did the diff cover, the diff oil. New diff mounts, polyurethane mounts from MKS, I'm sorry. Let's see here. And then the gas tank I coated. This is just spider stuff. This is coated with Raptor liner. I got this sandblasted Raptor. I got all new hardware and stuff. Let's see if it's leaking. This is all good. I got a new gasket and everything under there on the diff, so not leaking. We're good there. I'll have to get back under here eventually and maybe do some more maintenance under there. But yeah, that's where we're at. So hopefully it helps. Hopefully this video helps, because I had a hell of a time trying to figure this stuff out. And eventually it came out. But see, you can see all the mice. They were living. It's like a condo in there. Yeah, pretty nasty. So we're gonna rip this carpet out and end up cleaning all this up. So this is where I'm at with this car. Hopefully I can get this done before it gets cold, and then we'll put it back in storage for the winter time. I don't know what's gonna happen during winter, but it's probably just gonna sit in storage until it gets warm again in spring. So I'm trying to get as much done as I possibly can. This is what you end up with: a bunch of screws and bolts. Man, it's like a puzzle trying to figure out where they all go afterwards. But like I said, the parts car was gonna help with that, because this car is all original as well. I don't think I've ever showed this car on YouTube, but it is a silver 88. It's also automatic as well, and I haven't even touched this thing yet. It's pretty bad. Doesn't run. Who knows what's wrong with it? I think the guy put a head gasket on it at some point and a timing chain or something. From what I saw in the parts, it's been sitting for a long time too. But at least it'll help me figure out where all the screws and bolts go for the blue car. So yeah, that's where I'm at. And hopefully this helps. Look at that, all that stuff back there, man. I'm gonna have to rip this whole engine bay apart, clean all this crap up. But hopefully it'll be worth it. It's a nice car. It's got 88,000 miles, original. It runs good, actually drives pretty well, transmission shifts well. It was well maintained. I think it might have been a 1 or 2 owner car. You could see like the carpet's actually in really good shape. You can just tell it was well maintained. The seats aren't bad, so I'm thinking they were taking care of it. And there's not much rust on it at all, to be honest with you. There's usually all rotted out in the wheel wells and stuff. Not too bad for a car with 88,000 miles. It's 30 years old. Not the best shape on the exterior, but there's a little rust spot right there starting to bubble up. So we'll have to take care of that. I gotta put this inner liner back in, but I did new fuel pump and stuff, so I was kind of trying to just keep it out so I could see if there's anything going on, anything leaking from the fuel pump. But everything seems to be a-okay. So we'll get that back in eventually, and then yeah, we'll keep moving on. So I think that's about it. I just wanted to make this video for a progress update on the car. I'll let you guys know, maybe hope on getting the dash out. And that's gonna be it for now. So hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, and share. Say hi to Gooch. Say hi to Gooch, and that'll be it for now. So I'll be making some more progress videos eventually of the car. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.